but it's oftentimes the hardest thing to do to regain some sort of respect. And ask yourself, why not just deal with a woman who is happy to follow your program, who is happy to follow what you have going on, because that's when they will be in their best state as a woman. From the majority of the emails that I've been reading regarding men asking me questions, it's usually revolved around a woman. And I'm convinced that none of these men that contact me understand the fundamentals of what I'm about to say. Men should lead in relationships. It is uncomfortable to say. It is not politically correct. If you said this as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you would lose your job. You might get demoted. You might get kicked out. But this is the reality. Men should lead in relationships. I'm talking about the marriage kind, the boyfriend and girlfriend kind, the dating kind. This is how men should be. Now, here's my argument for it. First off, picture a woman. A woman finds a man very attractive. The man walks up to her. The man is found out to be gay. She will be inherently repulsed by him. But here's a more nuanced scenario that happens time and time again, and that goes slipped under the radar. A woman finds a man attractive. They get into a relationship. They get into any type of sexual interaction. The man shows tendencies that are feminine. And he keeps showing them time and time again to where the woman gradually becomes unattracted. She doesn't even know it. But it's the same type of reaction. It's only on a subtle scale as the first. The woman is exposed to feminine traits that make her inherently repulsed. Now, although there might be a news article or a media company trying to push the idea that men should be feminine in a certain way, this is something that women actually are repulsed by. So that's my first point. The second point, women already subconsciously know that men are supposed to lead. It doesn't matter if you're a feminist. It doesn't matter if you're a modern woman. It doesn't matter if you're traditional. Women generally expect the man to approach. Women generally expect the man to initiate the date. Women generally expect the man to ask for the number. Women generally expect the man to plan the date, pick the venue, pay for the date. Women generally would want a man to court her, to marry her. Women would generally want some type of marriage like that. So they already subconsciously know that men are supposed to lead. But what happens if they subconsciously know that men are supposed to lead? Then how are they going to treat a man who's not worthy of leadership? How are they going to treat a man who's showing feminine traits? How are they going to treat this man? But let me first break down this. In order for a man to lead, respect is key. I've been reading most of the emails that I've responded to, and the general theme is disrespect. Men have lost respect. But what is respect? Let's define it. A feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. All right. Everyone should have respect for each other, meaning there is a general respect that everyone has for each other. You're polite to one another. You're not rude to one another. You don't act mean to one another. General respect. But then there's a second echelon of respect where a woman versus a man. A woman will have a certain amount of respect, or she should, to other men. And the same way men should have a certain amount of respect for other women, generally speaking. But then there's another echelon of respect to where a woman has a level of respect to a certain type of man, a man that she wants. But then even further than that, that is the type of respect or regard that she will have for a man through interest, through recognizing some of the qualities he has, whether it be physical or what he's done in his life. She will basically begin to bite the bait. She will eventually begin to invest some type of time or attention into him. But then there's another type of respect to where she's decided that this is the one. This is the one I want to be with. This is the one I want to spend time with. This is the one I want to be exclusive to. That's a higher level of respect. But what's going on a lot of times is this woman is getting into these relationships and she's starting to say, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. But a lot of times it's based off of how much respect she's lost for that man. So he gets from being general respect, respect of the opposite sex, respect of a certain type of man that you're interested in, respect of the man that you're wanting to be exclusive with, she starts to demote this man and he starts to fall further and further. That's why a lot of times men won't really understand why they're being treated in a certain way, that it almost seems like she's changed. Well, how she sees about you has changed. How she feels about you has changed. Men should pay very close attention to this level of regard. And these are questions you can ask yourself when you're gauging how much she cares about you, or whether she's still into you, or whether this is even a good idea. First off, how well does she respect your time? I mentioned it in past videos. Is she punctual? Does she meet dates on time? If she happens to cancel, is she rescheduling? Is she not late? Come on, like if you have a job interview, are you going to be on time? Or are you going to say, "Oh, I'm running 15 minutes late, 30 minutes late"? Why would you expect them to accept you? But if you actually have a high regard for someone, you're going to try and do the best, your utmost best to be on time, if early, if not that. How compliant is she to your program? Things such as schedule. Are you guys making sure that your schedule is aligned and that you guys are both accommodating for each other? Is she keeping her word when it comes to your program and being compliant in the confines of that program? Is she going out of her way to meet the expectations? Let's just say you work a certain time and you get off at a certain time. Is she courteous to that? Is she accommodating towards that? Even though it's late, she's still making sure that she's accommodating to your time. That shows that she holds you in high regard. What about the third one? How reciprocative is she? Is she being very acknowledgeable of what you're putting into the relationship? And is she trying to also put an equal amount in? This can show up in all different forms, so to the point where it could be subjective, but you know what I'm talking about. Because, for example, you pay for this date and then she pays for the second date. Or even, what about this? I've had women where I don't even have to pay for the date. Women like me so much that they'll pay. That's happened to me. But this goes into the fourth thing. How far does she go out of her way of what a normal woman would do in order to initiate? Some women will have such a high interest that they'll pay for dates. They'll try and take you out on a date. They might even ask you for your number. They might initiate the texting. They might give you something like a gift. They're going to be the ones who ask you, "Hey, what's going on? Where are we? Are we going to be in this relationship?" They're going to initiate something because this is how much they regard you. And then lastly, does she look up to you? Meaning, is she coming to you for advice? Is she coming to you for ways in which you can impart wisdom to her? Is she asking for help with a really big decision she's trying to make? This means she holds you in a higher regard. But here's the thing, and this is what a lot of these men and the emails are coming to me with. If you're seeing anything that's in the opposite of what I've explained to you, then you know something's wrong. You know that you're not leading anymore. You know that you might not even have the ability to. So here's the thing. Either you have not properly led, or she is not leadable. Either way, you lose. Because ultimately it depends on how she feels. Ultimately, it's the way that her perspective is going to view you, which is how she's going to treat you. And here's the thing. When you get to that point when you're no longer able to lead, what happens is women start to lead. But remember, if women subconsciously know that men are supposed to lead, how are they going to feel when they end up being the one who's leading? And this is what often shows up in the men who are writing me these emails. It's like very evident that the woman is starting to lead and the man is taking the very reactive position. But oftentimes this leads in a lot of mistreatment by women towards men. And this is how it'll look like. How can you tell a woman is leading in a relationship? She's going to henpeck you, which means she's going to constantly complain about things that she wants you to do, and you need to do this and you need to do this and X and Y. It's going to look like a very nagging, consistent annoyance in your ear. Very critical and controlling in that regard. She's going to be cold. Cold, I mean emotionally. She's not going to be as happy or as positively emotive around you. Another thing is she's not going to be as affectionate. The hugs and the kisses and the holding of hands, it's going to be less often. Sometimes it might even seem forced. It's not going to have the same energy about it. She's going to emasculate you. She's going to do things like yelling at you in public or chastising you in front of people. She'll do that. It goes back to the henpecking and the controlling aspect of how she's trying to basically dominate you to make you be a certain way. And consider it. You're going to see things as to which the way she treats you, you're going to feel not worthy of that because of what you did for her. See, This is almost the opposite of reciprocation that I told you prior on, right? A woman who's reciprocated, she's going to have almost a subconscious ledger of how she wants to give in comparison to how much you give to her. She's so grateful. Whereas on this opposite end, her being inconsiderate, she's taking you for granted. She's almost treating you at such a lower value that you didn't think was possible. Here we go on to the more nastier types of mistreatment. You have things like looking for other suitors. This is when she will start to hang around men. This is when she'll start to entertain other men. Might even text other men. She might even get involved with other men because she's basically looking for your placement. She's looking for her other options because your time is almost up. Cheating. She's going to get emotionally involved with other people. She's going to entertain other men in a more intimate space, whether it be emotionally, socially, physically. Cheating. Betrayal. She's going to basically break a boundary. She's going to act in a way that offends you. Whether it be a certain moral that you have, a certain idea that you have, she will betray that. Break up. She don't want to be with you anymore. So this is what it looks like when a woman leads in a relationship. Do you see how I mentioned nothing positive? Because this is ultimately what happens in a lot of times where men are not leading. The women start to act almost in a way that's opposite of their nature. It's not feminine at all. All these things I mentioned, they're actually very masculine traits. But this is the role that the woman will put on instinctively, subconsciously. I don't know why it is, but I just seen it many a times again. I've seen it in my relationships. I've seen it in other people's. With the one caveat of being married, and that's a whole separate issue. When we're strictly talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, dating, courting, initially meeting someone and liking them, to long-term relationships. If you don't have the capacity to lead, here's why I think you should leave. Because either you don't have what it takes to lead, or she's not leadable. I'm going to make a video about women who are not leadable in the future. But let's focus on the first thing I said. You don't have what it takes to lead. When we're talking about a relationship, it's not just intercourse. It's more than shacking up with somebody. It is a commitment that you make in a way as to which you can have love grow. And love is not just a feeling. Love is also an action. Love is a lot of times a commitment. Love is a responsibility. And men who don't act responsible, they don't have what it takes to have a relationship. It is a very hard thing to do because it requires discipline. It requires not just being able to lead, but holding yourself accountable for what that means in terms of your responsibility and leadership. Otherwise, you're just going to be constantly reminded that this woman almost despises you in a way because you're less of a man to her. Being a leader is a mantle that men should take up, but understand that it comes with a lot of a burden too. Sure, you get the power of being able to lead, but also you bear the brunt of accepting responsibility, oftentimes for what comes in the relationship. And this is the ultimate accountability as men we should take as a society in order to make things get better. But when you're dealing with women who don't want to respect you, they're not going to follow your leadership. They don't respect what you have to say. They don't respect where you're going. They don't respect you as a person. You're wasting your time. Some women can get out of that situation to where they're always rebellious to what you want to get done, to where they can be convinced that you have what it takes to lead, but it's oftentimes the hardest thing to do to regain some sort of respect. And ask yourself, why not just deal with a woman who is happy to follow your program, who is happy to follow what you have going on, because that's when they will be in their best state as a woman. So with that being said, what I'd like for you guys to do is if you guys could comment either on the female side or the male side, ways that you notice your relationship started to take a turn for the worse. Comment on anything you like in the comments. I appreciate you guys' comments. And if anyone has any more emails to send me, just go ahead. I'll put my email in the link below if you guys have any questions, because what this video was about is more about the preventative and the assessment. I could try and get into the cure, which isn't always the most successful, but if you guys have any emails regarding what I've talked about, or any emails for that matter, go ahead and send me one. I appreciate all you guys' comments, so you guys take care.